What up, Pod Squad? Welcome back. It's been a while, but we're back again. Now, officially for Season 8, Episode 1 of The Brotherly Ballers. If you are out there asking yourself, what's that? What did Jack mispronounce the name? What's going on here? It's the artists, a.k.a. the show, a.k.a. us, formerly known as the 11 millionth reiteration of the Victorious POD. So, we're just going to be doing a little bit of rebranding. So, more stuff to come, but the Victorious POD, for many people that weren't familiar, didn't really tell you anything about what the show was, and we're trying to make it a little bit more obvious. We're brothers, and we're talking about football, and it's more straight on. So, anyways, enough about that. Welcome in to my co-host Tyler. It's been a while officially recording. I know we've kind of had some bumps in the off season, but we're kicking things off for now.
We're definitely in preseason mode. There's no question about that. So it feels good to be back. NFL draft right around the corner. We're doing this on Monday the 22nd. So the draft is on this Thursday, the 25th. So it's exciting. Feels like football is starting to at least come back, at least for us crazy dynasty degens. Means the rookie drafts are right around the corner too.
Yep, just been itching trying to make trades and things happen. So thank God there's finally going to be content and changes and stuff to follow. So, do you have anything cool in the last month or two?
Let's see. Easton started coach pitch T-ball, so that's been fun to see in that transition. So and then we also got him signed up for kindergarten, which is insane to say because he turned 5 a couple weeks ago. So he had a fun little party and had all the grandparents and things like that in town. And then we've got him all scored away for kindergarten in August. So that'll be a big change for us. He's excited. So we're feeling like old parents right now, and our kid is only 5.
That is bananas. Yeah. Wow. All right, 5 years old and kindergarten. That's crazy. Yeah. Christine will be teaching kindergarten next year, so she's gonna get to deal with kids Easton's age all the time. So can't wait for that.
Oh man.
I will jump right into stuff because for my fun game or whatever, I had a would you rather thing, but then I went back and I was like, you know what? We haven't done this in a long time. It's been off season, so I really miss Liar Liar. We did it once, and Tyler hated all of them, so we're gonna do it again quick. For those of you that aren't familiar, I'm gonna give 3 random bananas things, and 2 of them are true and 1 is a lie, and Tyler's going to try to figure out which one's the lie. So I have up to 3. We don't have to play all 3, but we'll see how Tyler goes, and if he's angry, maybe he'll want to play more. So all right, clue number 1. The Dixon Ticonderoga Company, the ones famous for the number 2 pencils, once released a line of left-handed pencils. Despite being exactly the same as regular pencils, this product increased sales by 18%. Number 2, in the 1840s, it was considered childish to smile for pictures, so photographers would encourage subjects to say the word prunes, similar to how we say cheese now, but in order to keep their mouths tight and focused and not smiling. And then number 3, the opposite of warmth is called coolth.
2 of those things are true, huh?
2 of those are factually correct. It pains me to say.
I don't have any clue whatsoever. Those are 3 of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Love it. That's what I go for here.
I'm gonna go with the warmth thing because I feel like the pencil company would target that, whether it's true or not, just to see if it would work, or is it some type of April Fool's joke and it actually ended up working. And who knows about the other one? It's just complete and random guess. So I'm going to go with warmth and coolth, I guess.
I hate to tell you, coolth is indeed a word. It is pleasantly low temperature. So, fun fact, that is real. I had the same exact thought process, but actually the pencil one is made up. That never actually happened. So, yep.
Yeah. I mean,
apparently prunes was used back in the day to have photographers, but
I can see that. You never know. Trying to get anybody to smile or keep a straight face or whatever. Try anything. Try to get any type of children to smile properly in a photo.
Impossible.
I'm sure can attest. It's absolutely impossible. So.
Yep. Jackson sees the camera come out and just instantly starts blank staring.
Thankfully, ours is the opposite. Both of our kids love the camera,
so
they make it a little bit easier on us. But we got to get them there first. They're going to be really mad until they're settled, and then once they're into it, then it makes it a lot easier. But
that's good. All right, round 2. We're going to at least get you 1. If you get the second one, we don't have to do round 3. But clue number 1. Before anyone had ever heard of him, Bill Nye quit his job at Boeing to be a stand up comic after winning a Steve Martin lookalike contest in 1978. Number 2, a Swedish man received disability benefits for his addiction to heavy metal music, claiming he couldn't function without attending at least 300 concerts a year, and because of this, he obviously couldn't possibly hold down a job. And number 3, sometimes during crew changes on the International Space Station, they have been known to participate in the Space Olympics, where the astronauts compete in zero-gravity games against each other.
To be the Swedish heavy metal one, but my guess is going to be the crew change in the Olympics, just because I feel like NASA would get in trouble if somehow something like that happened on their watch, and maybe they didn't know, maybe there's enough eyes on it that wouldn't happen, especially in somewhere like space. So that's going to be my guess, but man, I want the Swedish heavy metal one to be correct.
That one, the Swedish one, absolutely is true. The space station is the lie. So you are correct on that one. And then Bill Nye, apparently, yeah, that's how he switched into
I'd actually heard
the
that.
entertainment. Damn it. That's the thing, is I would never know like when someone's randomly heard one of these. But yeah, Space Olympics, I have no idea if they do it. But... So Tyler got one. Do you want to play round 3 or no?
Sure, why not?
Okay, perfect. Good. Number 1, a town in Italy has a festival every year where they throw oranges at each other, reenacting a historical battle with citrus fruits instead of weapons. Number 2, the first concept of the modern-day treadmill was created as a torture and an interrogation device. Subjects would have their hands bound to the machine while the interrogator was in control of the drive belt running it. And number 3, I don't know what the drive belt was like, but I'm assuming it just was manual. Number 3, there was a unique species of ant found only in New York City called the Manhattan ants. It kills me.
I have to say that was correct, just because you would love the pun so much that you wouldn't have been able to make it up.
It's so funny, even if it's not.
So I'm going to say that one's correct. I could see the Italy one being like something kind of close, but it wasn't fruit they threw at each other. But I'm going to go with the treadmill one. If treadmill was originally used as torture, I understand why it's absolutely the worst. I hate running on a treadmill versus running outside, but I'm going to say the treadmill one.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. That was completely made up. There is a town in Italy that uses fruits. I know there's one in Spain that does like tomatoes, but yeah, they put people like that are on both sides and they station them in different spots, and then it's just like a snowball fight with oranges, which I feel like would hurt. But
that is awesome.
I don't question that. So all right, so Tyler got 2 out of 3. That's much better than I thought it would be. I made them too obvious which was which each time. Someday I'll get all 3. All right. Anyways, I'm off track. I forgot it's a fantasy podcast. So if you guys want to check us out, we're on YouTube primarily. We have 125 subs right now. YouTube.com/@the Victorious Pod. That's going to change shortly once I remember how to do that. Recently, we had like a month and a half ago, we had a crossover episode with the Minnesota Sports Crew. So it's on their YouTube and Facebook pages. But we had a full episode long thing to kick off their season, which was a lot of fun. So go check that out. And then other socials, we're not super active in the off season, but a retweet here and there is known to happen. So moving into the NFL news side, first off, we're going to cover the Vikings off-season moves fairly quickly. I'm just going to list off all the losses, and if Tyler has one to talk about, obviously we know the big ones and everybody's already talked about them, but if there's any that you have your like unique 2 cents on, and then I'll go through the additions, really just the key ones. I didn't cover any of the depth guys because blah. So big off-season losses, obviously. Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta, everybody knows. Danielle Hunter going to the Texans. Jordan Hicks, a linebacker, starter for the last couple of years, going to the Browns. KJ Osborne signed to the Patriots. Greg Joseph, our kicker, going to across the border to Green Bay. And then Alexander Madison, cut by us, good riddance, and went to the Raiders. So any thoughts quick on one that stands out there to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big one is it's hard to lose Kirk, but at least being a Falcons fan, I don't have to completely turn that around, and massive potential boon to that entire Falcons offense. So that's awesome. Depending on what happens in New England, I like KJ Osborne. I've always been kind of a KJ Osborne truther. I've always enjoyed him as like a wide receiver 3, and it's not like they have a whole lot going on there in New England. So depending what they do on Thursday at 3, if they stand pat and get themselves a quarterback, no matter who it is, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, whoever, is going to be an upgrade likely over Mac Jones and just change that whole offense. So the whole New England Patriot way is out the window for everything. Belichick's gone. Everybody's gone. That's nobody has any clue what New England's going to look like. So maybe he could step in and be relatively useful there, even potentially for fantasy purposes. I don't know about that. I don't know if he's going to go quite that high. But of those beyond Cousins, that's probably the most impactful one because I really don't care Mattinson going to Las Vegas. That doesn't do much for me. I think we see Zamir White continue to play well that he did in a bell cow role at the tail end of the year. He's already got the sway of the head coach in there, so I think he'll get first crack and a good amount of reps there.
Yep, I agree. Fair enough. On to the fun stuff, the additions wise. I'll just run through all of them and give you my 5 seconds of if you haven't heard of us signing this player, what you should know. But signed the biggest probably news signing running back Aaron Jones from the Packers. It was a surprise cut with them bringing in Josh Jacobs, and he immediately was like, I want to go to the Vikings because screw you Packers. So 1 year, kind of a revenge deal. He had really good durability in his entire career up until last year. Very good receiving back. I think we'll be able to manage his health better with Ty Chandler. I don't think it's just going to be an Aaron Jones bell cow situation, so I like it just for a year and figure it out from there. Edge rusher, essentially our Danielle Hunter replacement. He's 3 or 4 years younger, and we got him obviously significantly cheaper. 26, he's coming off a 12.5 sack campaign in Houston, and then the cool thing that stood out was he was a 22.4% pass rush win rate last year, while Danielle was, I think, only 12 or 13%. So, I mean, granted, he's obviously probably getting double teamed much more, and so you're not going to have plays that count towards that, but the fact that this guy can win pretty consistently one-on-one is exciting, so it's really just health for him. Outside linebacker / other edge rusher guy, Van Ginkel out of Miami. He's a Flores guy, so familiar with the system when Flores was back there. Just had his best season this past year. He was 20th overall in the league in pass rush win rate. So obviously you're not going to replace Danielle Hunter, but two guys combining should be pretty interesting there. The one that was probably the best feel-good story, Blake Cashman, linebacker out of Houston, from Minnesota, played at the U of M, was a state champion, I believe, in Eden Prairie as well. Should be a very interesting pairing with Ivan Pace, who was up there for Rookie of the Year as an undrafted guy last year. Cashman finally in his 5th season last year became a full starter, and he's known as a very good tackler. He had a lot of tackle stats, and then pretty good in pass coverage as a linebacker too. Sam Darnold, quarterback, he's probably going to be our week 1 starter just because whoever we take at rookie for our future plan is not going to start right away. Obviously a short-term plan. He's only 27. He's the former number 3 overall pick. Obviously he's been bashed and played terribly over his career, bouncing from a couple of teams now, but I think the Vikings and what we have around him will probably be the best supporting cast he's had in his career by far. So there's a chance for some mini resurgence here and just a 1 year survive in the meantime. About 4 different defensive linemen, primarily interior guys that we signed, the top ones being Tillery and Bullard. So not any one standout guy after we missed out on Christian Wilkins, but a lot of just pieces to hopefully rotate in. Center / guard Dan Feeney, cheap 1 year deal. He's probably going to be our first backup rather than a starter. He's been active in 112 out of 115 games in his career. He hasn't necessarily played a lot in all of those, but he's been durable and consistently healthy for a lineman. So, I mean, that's nice for a depth piece. Cornerback Shaq Griffin, didn't really see this coming. We got him as another cheap 1 year deal out of Seattle most recently, I believe. He was also in Carolina and bounced around a couple of other places, but he's got a lot of snaps, decent veteran presence. He probably is the favorite to be the second starting cornerback at this point, just because we've had Blackman got benched down the stretch, and we've had some other guys with issues. Booth didn't really do a lot this past year after the first year, his rookie year, missing due to injury. So
nothing
another
terribly
veteran
crazy. I think
option in the time being.
getting Aaron
And then we
Jones is
signed a
really
kicker
helpful
from the
for us, but
XFL
obviously
who
our
hit
whole
a
backfield
17
was
out of
in
19
flux.
last
But
year after
being able
letting
to have
Joseph
somebody who
walk. So, I mean,
can come in
interesting
and
to
take
take a flyer on a
lion's
kicker.
share of
Can't
the
really do
snaps
much
right
worse than
away
you
is
have
great. Like
as
you said, Ty
Vikings
Chandler
in
was
the
never
past.
going
So
to be a bell
those are all the
cow, but
big
having
ones.
somebody
Do
who has
any really
been
stand out
having
to you,
known
Tyler, other
production in
than
Aaron
the
Jones was really
obvious?
good, and the revenge narrative is always fun. So maybe you can have a little bit of a late career resurgence. So I like that. You said it, but I was curious. I mean, if we'll get into it, I'm sure, but even if we trade up to somewhere and that top 3, 4, 5, do you still think then Darnold would be our starter week 1?
I think for week one, I don't know necessarily for the entire season, but I think week one
Could
it's just
be,
going to
yeah.
be
I just think
let the
if
rookie figure
we
some stuff
spend
out,
the
and then maybe
capital
we
to move up that
transition
high
from
to
there. I
then
don't think
not
it's going to be a situation where
play
we just
him
week one
quickly, I
throw him to
think
the wolves
you're
and
gonna lose a lot of
let it
fans
happen. I
real
don't
quick.
envision
You're
us
gonna you're
being
gonna have
a
a lot of
competitor
fans
this year
clamoring
anyway,
to
so I'd rather
see
just take half the
not
season and
Sam
let him
Darnold.
learn, and then
So
put him
I
in
could
because we're
certainly see
probably going to
it
be
going that
third
way.
place in the
But
division
if
by then
that's the
anyway.
case
But
and we
I could be wrong.
expect Sam Darnold to be a starter, then I don't even want to trade up. Honestly, I'd rather get more picks and fill other needs than quarterback. So just thought it was interesting that you said that. I was like, if we trade up and then he sits behind somebody for a year, I don't know how well that would go over with the fan base. I'll do like the week 4, week 5, week 6 start. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a year. I think he'll start at some point in 2024, whoever we take. But I just think
Fair enough.
it's really tough to throw a quarterback in. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. If we have like an early bye week, something like that. I just think it's really tough anytime there's a rookie quarterback, other than like the generational locked in 101, toss him in kind of thing. Like, I think we have an ability to have Darnold be serviceable for a few weeks while we just get a lot of our new pieces used to it. Like, it's not just gonna be the quarterback. There's a lot of other guys that are gonna have to get used to it. And I think this is gonna, like, I think they're taking the approach this year where it's like we are rebuilding for the future and making a plan going forward.
Yeah,
We're
I
not
hope
just
that's the
like,
case.
quick, let's get the rookie in there and just
I
hope
think
things go
JJ is
well. I
going to
think we
be
know
in
we're gonna
somebody's
be
ear if
500, sub
if
500,
they don't
no
get
matter
somebody
what. That, like,
that
to me,
he
there's no
wants
reason to rush
essentially.
it
So
and then risk
that'll be
the
curious.
quarterback getting the
Yeah.
jitters and having a
All
rough
right.
start
I
to his
digress.
career versus just like getting him ready and learning O'Connell's decently complicated offense. So that's my prediction. Oh yeah, he has a lot of say in this one. But all right, we'll do a quick little brief one with other key ones across the league, not just Vikings, but as far as fantasy relevant guys. I'm calling this one New Home Who Dis. So any players that switch teams,
I
I'm
mean,
just
if
going to
you're
go
going to
rapid
compare
fire
it
by
to
position.
last year's value
Basically,
for
you're just
Cousins,
going to
I mean,
say
I have to
increase,
say
decrease, or the
decrease
same as far as
because
fantasy value. We don't care
great
either
because he was
NFL fits
playing so
are and
incredibly well. I
anything
mean, he
else
was
like
like a
that. We don't
top
have to even really give much
3 or 4
analysis. I'll
fantasy
just let you
QB. So
answer all of them, and if I
I
disagree on any, I'll
they
just toss mine in
are
there.
apt
So
to run the ball
quarterbacks, the
even
only
more
couple of
effectively
really
with
big ones. But first
Bijan
off,
and Tyler
Cousins to
Algier. So
your Atlanta
I'm not
Falcons.
saying that Drake London and Kyle Pitts and all them aren't great, but
Yep.
they're not JJ and Addison and TJ Hawkinson. So I'm actually going to say decrease, which I'm sure not a lot of people thought coming in.
Yeah.
Maybe same. Yeah. Guess I'll say decrease. It couldn't have gotten much worse in Denver, but I mean, I guess you could say the same, but I'll say decrease because I don't see it going up. They just run the ball too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I'm probably on the same value side, but I can say
Yeah.
lean to the low side. So yeah, I get the point. And then Russell Wilson to the
It's tough. I
Steelers.
guess I'll give him a late career resurgence. I'll say increase. I guess, but I don't know that. I don't know. It might be the same. It might be a lot of those goal line will punch it in.
Yeah,
Some of
I'll
them will
say
go to
same. I don't
Lamar.
think
A lot of the
there's
Mark
really no
Andrews and
ceiling,
whatnot.
but
So
like you said, I don't
probably
think it could
most
have gotten
likely
much
the
worse.
same,
So
but I
I'll,
could
I'll
see him
say the
having a good
same.
year.
Running back Derrick Henry to Baltimore.
I
Yeah,
I I'll say I'm trying to remember who's all new in the backfield back there besides him, if any. Um, I'll say increase
yeah.
just because Cincinnati looked so bad last year with Burrow getting hurt. So I'll give him an
I'll
increase
go
for the year
increase just because
compared
I
to
think the
last year.
scoring upside is going to be there more. I don't know what to expect as far as rushing, but yeah. Joe Mixon to the Texans.
Agreed. Yeah. I'll say the same
Yeah, I
because
think
again I
if you
think he's gonna
are a
he's gonna
Mixon owner,
split
there's not
this
really a better spot that he
snap
could have ended
similar
up
to Ty
because I
Chandler
thought he
last
was
year.
going
He's
to
gonna
get
run
cut
him
and
into the
end up as
ground
a
or give
split
him
backfield guy, and all
70,
of a
80
sudden it was
percent of
like,
snaps.
nope, the
So
Texans want him,
same
and
feels
they
about
traded
right.
for him.
Again,
What?
we also
Like,
also
and they
remember he
let
was injured
Singletary
last
walk.
year a
So
little
like
bit
on
too.
top of
So
that,
I'll
yeah,
stick
I'm
with the
increased.
same.
I've always been a Mixon guy, but I love that. Aaron Jones to the Vikings.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, definite decrease in my mind here. Like everyone's like, oh, hey, it's Eckler. He's at this point, he's past the point
right.
in his career where he's
Yeah,
going
and
to
part of this is not
increase, even
necessarily
with a
even like
bad
for people
year
listening,
last year.
their finish. It's
Um,
more of just like, how
it's
did
not
you
even
view
his
this player
backfield. I
last
don't
year,
even know
and
that
like
he's going to be the
did they
starter.
lose
So
value or gain value or
I got to go
whatever
decrease for
at
him.
this point? So,
Yeah, exactly.
Austin Eckler to the Commanders. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a good fit because it's a wide open backfield. So that one's going to be very contingent, in my opinion, on what happens on draft day. Because I will not be surprised for them to add
Brian
a
Robinson,
day
yeah,
two
I think
or
Robinson
day
will still be
three
the
running
one.
back
So
and jump in for competition.
let's
So
see who else we got. Gus
I guess
Edwards
I'll
and
say
J.K.
increase,
Dobbins
kind of
both going to
pending
the
the outcome of
Chargers
the
from
draft.
the Ravens backfield. That was weird. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I was going to make like my bold prediction now and say
Hmm.
decrease because I think they're going to be a surprise team that takes a running back. So I bet you Dobbins still ends
That's
up
a
not being
really
ready
interesting
like full
one, just because
speed
the
at all
offense is
this
so much
next year,
better
but I
in
bet you
Green
he's not
Bay
even ready
than
to
than
start,
it was
until week
in
4,
Las
week 5,
Vegas.
week
So
6 at most.
um,
And Edwards is just
over the
that
course
guy
of his
that's going to be
career,
a
he's been really
1 week
consistent.
blow up and a waiver
I'm
wire
actually going to
hero,
give
and
him
then
an
he'll never do
increase
anything else
here because
again. So
I think the
I think
offense
a
will
rookie will
help
throw a
him
wrench
enough
into those
to at
plans.
least keep him the same and maybe have a little bit
Aaron
of
Jones
a better
replacement,
year.
Josh Jacobs to Green Bay.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, a decrease just because that entire offense
I'm
ran
saying
through
same, as in
Saquon in New York, and that is
even,
not
not same
going to
as
be the
in
case in
increase
Philly
also.
whatsoever. He's going to
um,
get
I just
a
think he
lot of
was
those
coming off of like
1 yard
such
line
high
plunges
utilization that I don't
absolutely
think
stolen
LaFleur
from
will
Jalen.
use
They
him to that
still
same
have to
level.
feed
But
the ball
offensive
to
wise, yes, more
AJ,
scoring
Mr.
maybe.
Diva himself, and then
Saquon to
really
Philly.
paid Devonta Smith. So I'm going to say decrease.
Oh,
Is he going to be good? Yes. Is he going to be as good as he was last year? And I can't exactly remember where he finished, but I don't think he's finishing in like the top four.
okay. This one's the one we're the most different on. I'm big on Saquon this year. I think the difference is there were so many times that Swift got tackled at the 1 yard line because he couldn't get the job done. I don't think that'll be the issue for Saquon. So I think there will be slightly less tush pushes happening with Hurts. And I also think that Saquon's going to be crazy used as like a quick little dump off, like while Hurts is scrambling, getting him out in the open, where like he's a good receiving back, but the Giants were so bad that they just didn't have to watch anybody else. Where
Yeah.
now they like
I
can't
just see
stack the box against
kind of
him.
like you said,
So
I see less
that
blow up
plus a really,
weeks.
really good
I think
offensive
he's
line. I
going to
think
be more
Saquon will
consistent,
be
like you
more
said.
efficient. Where like as an
But
owner of him in
Jalen, when he
redraft
scrambles,
in like 2 of the last
he's
5 years,
he's not
he's
looking to
like
dump it off, and so I
30
don't
points
know
and
that he's
then
going to get
6
a lot
because
of
the
those.
Giants are
But
bad. So
offensive
I
line is
think this will
certainly going
just
to
be
help.
more
But
consistent,
um,
more scoring chances,
I think that he
and
was
they'll just
on
use
podcast with
him
Jason
more
Kelsey, and they're
efficiently.
like,
So
"Hey, if we get anywhere down inside the 2 yard line, sorry, Saquon, you're not getting the ball. It just is what it is. It's just kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
that
yeah,
way." So I think he'll miss out on some of those. So will there be less tush push? Certainly, because Saquon is obviously better than DeAndre. But I
fair.
just don't know that he holds the value with Saquon in Philly. It's going to be incredible. They just have so many weapons. It's going to be hard to get him consistent week in, week out. But he's going to do well every week. But there's going to be plenty of weeks where he gets 85, 90
Yeah,
yards and no touchdown. Hard one, honestly, for me, just because that whole regime is completely different. Will Levis does he take a year two step? So with how bad of a year Pollard had last
yeah,
year, I'm
that's
going to
fair.
say increase.
This might be an early my guy versus a guy Tyler's cold on, so we'll revisit that in a few months. Tony Pollard to the Titans. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm more cautious as a
Mm-hmm.
Pollard owner, so I'm saying same. But I think for me, this is like
Yeah.
the exact mirror opposite of the Saquon situation, where I think everybody sees the team Saquon went to, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, this is going to be amazing," and will probably overhype it. Where I feel like everybody's underhyping Pollard. Like you said, he had such a bad year last year, and still was a low RB1, which I think people don't realize. It's like he still finished much higher than people. Like people
Mm-hmm.
are treating him like it was like a drafted as a top 10 guy and finished like 23rd. Like he
Yeah.
finished like 11. So like it just he can't do much worse, and that was a bad year. And I think everyone's just dogging on Tennessee as a bad fit, and it's like, yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no guarantee he's not just also still the guy there. They've
Same feels
already
about right.
signed
Yeah.
two
Just
big
to quick
linemen
looked
in
it
free
up. I
agency.
mean,
They're
so he
probably
finishes
going to
RB
draft another one in
15
the
in
first
half
or the second round
PPR.
here.
So
So it's like
that feels about
if
right with
he's,
how
it's
much
the only thing
it
that
feels
comes
like
down to is
Tajay is
him and
already
Tajay Spears'
in the
split
driver's
workload. But
seat.
like
It's
he
certainly
could
going to be that
easily
1A,
end up
1B
still having a
situation. You're
lot
going
of
to have
volume.
pop
And if
off
he just
weeks
gets
and
a
you're going
couple
to
more
have
touchdowns than he did
completely
last year,
busted
he's all of a sudden still top 15. So I don't
weeks.
know how to feel,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I don't really understand that one. So I'm honestly, I
Okay.
trying to even remember how he finished in Philly. I know he certainly had good games. So I guess I'm going to say the same. Um, I'll be very curious. Again, that's going to be a whole new a team essentially
Yeah.
after their
And then lastly,
after they draft
DeAndre
one
Swift
overall, and if
randomly
they
went
take
to the
another
Bears,
playmaker
which
at
I
9.
didn't
So
see coming.
I guess I'll say the same, but more likely a decrease.
Yeah, I'm going decrease just because I think the combo of a rookie
Mm-hmm.
quarterback that defenses always like to send people after them. Swift isn't a guy that you really have to fear like
Yeah.
before the line of scrimmage. It's more if
Yeah,
he gets into
interesting.
open
Yeah,
space,
that's
and
the
I think he did well last year
first
with
season he
Philly
played all
because they had
16
so many other
games, so he
weapons.
was
So like
RB
he doesn't have
23,
that benefit
and his
anymore. The
subsequent
offensive
or
line
his
is
prior
bad.
seasons RB
They're
22,
probably
RB
not going to
19,
have
RB
that
18.
many issues covering
He's
on the deep
been a
passes with
locked
a
in
rookie
essentially.
quarterback. And I
Yeah, he's
honestly
been a
think
locked in RB
that
two,
last
and
year was the
so this
one
last
time
season
Swift
with
stayed
playing
healthy. So chances are I
for the
can bet
first
on
time
decrease just because he's going to
16
miss half the
games
season.
was
So
his worst of his
that's what I'm
career.
going to
So
go with.
I could definitely see him falling outside of RB2
And
territory. Yeah,
wasn't even that much better.
yeah, yeah. Agreed. That's a hard one.
Which is crazy because like
I'm
I'm
gonna
not even saying
say
like RB's missing
decrease.
8 games or anything, but like most
I
RBs
think
miss
there's
like 2, 3, 4 games. So the
honestly
fact that he
plenty of
played
mouth
16
to
and
feed
still
there,
finished
and he's already
23
got
says more
Stroud and
negative to
Heaney, and
me
he's
than
already got
anything. So
such a good connection with Tank Dell
right, wide
and
receivers, and
Nico and
then
whatnot.
that's pretty much it. So
So
big
I'm gonna
one,
say
Diggs
decrease.
to the
I will not
Texans.
be surprised if he finishes like second or
Yes.
even third on that team in fantasy points when it comes to wide receivers. I think he's getting to the end.
Okay.
It's not.
Oh yeah, definitely. For me, I feel like Diggs is the Pollard of wide receivers, at least from this past year, where like same thing. Everybody is just bashing him for like, oh my God, Diggs was so garbage last year. He was a wide receiver 10, so
Yeah.
that's I get the second half of the season 100% that he fell off and everything, but everyone's talking about it again like he didn't just still finish better than all but 9 other receivers in the league. So like I think his value is so much lower than even maybe it should be. So I will say same because I think if he was going to get traded, I was waiting for them to like ship him off to just somewhere very bad, just Siberia for fantasy wasteland kind of thing. And instead, I'm like, okay, him going to pair up with Stroud and then the new look Texans with Mixon back there and everything too. I'm like, could be very interesting. I think the struggle
Yeah.
with Buffalo last year and even kind of the year before was like he wasn't getting the touchdowns, and so he easily could if Stroud just takes a second year leap after blowing up last year.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to all of a
Yeah.
sudden return to like, oh, the next 2 to 3 years locked in top 10 wide receiver consistent guy, but like I don't think it's going to be surprising if he
I
still
guess we'll
finishes
have to
within the
say
top
increase
15
simply
or
because
whatever, like a
he
high
was
wide receiver two
so
at
bad last
least.
year.
And
It
everybody's already
shouldn't.
kind of writing
He
him
really
off as like,
didn't
oh, he's
play,
off the
but even the
cliff.
year
He's going to
before
be
that. So I mean, this last year he was
below
wide
top 20
receiver
guy like next
52
year. So
and 46
that's
before that,
that's
and
my
so in
take.
2021 when he played all 16
Uh,
games, he was
my
wide
boy, it
receiver
finally happened. I
24.
didn't think
So
it was talked about for so
he's going
long,
to do
but
better
Hollywood
than he
Brown
did the
goes to the
previous
Chiefs.
2 years. The hard part will be
So
depends on
happy.
what draft capital you have to get to draft
Yeah,
him.
he
If
didn't play.
you're drafting him as wide receiver 35, great, go for it. I've got no issue with it. If you got to start doing it and he's wide receiver 24, it's just going to be too rich of a price for me. There's still too many
My
mouths
guy.
to feed. It's still honestly has transitioned to a weirdly run first offense. I mentioned that on the Minnesota podcast that I'm like Mahomes over the course of his first 4 seasons was like 35 points a game, 37, 34, 37. This last year was like 29. So I'm like, they just made a more concerted effort to run the ball. Seemed to work out for him. Won the Super Bowl again. So it's just a little bit of a change in philosophy of let's not get Patrick Mahomes hit so much. And Pacheco has obviously shown that he can take on that workload. So they're content. They seem to be more content winning those 21 to 17 games instead of the 35 to 31 games.
Right. Yeah. I don't think he's gonna obviously like explode out of nowhere and be a top 15, top 20 guy or anything, but I think he will become much more consistent just with some volume for a change. The scoring, I don't know because obviously they get guys like Justin Watson and MVS touchdowns randomly each week, so like that's not predictable. But I would say
Yeah,
he's another one where I think his
yeah, that's good.
value hasn't like what he was at before signing with the Chiefs. I don't think it has responded in the market where like he hasn't gotten a bump for going to the Chiefs, where he's a guy that I would maybe sneaky try to target in a dynasty league for like I don't want to say on the cheap, but like I would try to get him
Yeah,
also because we mainly for me we don't know how this Rashee Rice news is going to turn out,
yeah,
and there's a very realistic world that he gets suspended or like indefinite suspension for 6 to 8 weeks, and Hollywood just gets the bonus on that. I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, great landing spot. He's with Mahomes," but like Rashee Rice did so well last year as a rookie that like he's going to be the guy. And now I'm like, he might not be on the field, unfortunately. So I don't think a lot of Hollywood owners are probably thinking that way. Where you could maybe just be like, "Hey, he's your
mm-hmm.
fourth or fifth or sixth best wide receiver. Like, how about a mid draft pick or like how's this other piece?" And like he might blow up because Rashee Rice isn't there. He might just do well because he has Mahomes now, and he's on a 1 year deal where it's going to be kind of a prove it situation.
Yeah.
So like
Yep.
maybe he re-ups with Kansas City after he does a great showing here. Or if not, he goes somewhere else who believes in him, and like
No,
kind
I
of like a
didn't see it
Carolina
coming either. This
situation where they're like,
one
we'll give you a
hurts
ton of
my
money to just come
soul
be our
because
one. So like,
Keenan is
I think
the
he's a guy that
boy.
you could
There's no
maybe
question
like.
about that.
He's not going to become
But I have to
your
say
starting
decrease.
wide receiver for a
Bringing
contending team, but he's a guy you could
a
get
rookie
cheap now and
quarterback,
then like
knowing that
flip
you're
and
essentially
turn for more value
getting a
in
rookie
a season.
quarterback.
So
One, you're not the alpha
Keenan
one.
Allen to
DJ
the Bears.
Moore is in there.
Didn't see
Great
that
if you're
coming
a
either out of the
possession
blue.
receiver, as
Yeah,
Keenan
it's
always has been. He's
our
always
boy.
relied on that volume. Not saying he's not a
Yeah,
great player, but
yeah,
Herbert was like, hey, how many times can I throw it to Keenan in a single game? It just is what it is.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's likely not going to be a thing with Caleb. And so they're not going to want him to air it out 50 times a game like they were willing to let Herbert do. We'll see what that new regime looks like
Mm-hmm.
in LA now with them, but it has to be decreased just because, again, going to have a
Want to
rookie,
see me do it again?
and you never know what they're going to do with 9 either. They could go get another receiver because Keenan's still at the tail end on a short deal, and they have to look toward the future. So I will not be surprised if they get to 9. My guess is they trade out, honestly, in my opinion, just to get more draft capital. But if they stand pat, I will not be surprised if they get another offensive weapon that's obviously younger. And it's so interesting. It's really going to be entirely predicated on Will Levis taking that year 2 leap. He was okay with the Jags. I'm trying to remember exactly where he finished, but it's escaping me. But
Yeah,
I am
that's
going
fair.
to
I
say
also agree. Definitely
I'm going
decrease.
to say it stays about the
Calvin
same.
Ridley to the Titans.
Kind of that Ridley versus Hop. I don't really know exactly how it's going to go, but I'll say it's about the same, but potential for increase because Will Levis can slang it. Oh yeah, that's way higher than I expected. I was as well. I was going to 2.
I just looked it up and he was wide receiver
Yeah.
17 and a half PPR, and that seems way higher than I thought it would be. If you would have made me guess, I was going to go like 25. But also, this is also on the back of him playing all 17 games. So it's another situation where like a Swift just boosted by
100%.
being active. So I don't think I will be surprised if he finishes as a wide receiver 2 here, because I still think I would like if the two of them are exact same ADP. I'm assuming Hop will probably be higher, but if they're the same, I would go Hopkins over Ridley. I think he will be more of the 1A. Well, it's probably a 2A and 2B situation in Tennessee, but like you get my point that like I think it would be Hopkins more, and I will be surprised if, even though they're giving Ridley all this money, that if he comes in and like takes over as the spot, because I mean he's also 29, so it's not like it's a young guy coming in to like kind of start to usurp Hopkins. I think they're both just like old and gonna just fight for jump ball targets, and that's about it. So I will probably say decrease based on the 17, but I
actually like
I
this
guess
one
say
a
I guess
lot.
same
Again,
based on just like I don't
I think
expect him to
everybody
do a
has
whole lot.
just
So yeah,
completely
I'm
written
not
off
super
Bryce Young,
excited about
and
that one. It just
like
seemed like
he was still the number one.
they didn't want
He
they didn't know
was the
who else
number
to
one
get, so they
overall
threw a
pick.
bunch of money at him, and he was like, I don't
And it
really
was
want to play there. I'd
obviously
rather play in
there for a
Jacksonville, but I
reason.
guess I'll take the
It's
money.
great.
So
Stroud did
yeah.
ridiculous things. There's no
Deontay
denying
Johnson
that. He was
traded to
absolutely
the
incredible.
Panthers.
Had one of, if not the best QB rookie wide receiver or rookie QB season ever. So I think people have written off Bryce Young so quick. A lot of QBs struggle in their first season, and when you get thrown into that fire with one of the worst offensive lines and not really a whole lot of so many weapons to throw to, a terrible running game, it's hard for him. So I like Deontay. He's a dude who just knows how to get open. He's going to play that Adam Thielen. I'm going to get peppered with targets, and he's going to catch 7 balls a game. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he will be what Thielen and DJ Chark were supposed to be for the Panthers. I think he will just be crazy high volume as Thielen kind of just disappears. Like those games, like in the middle of the early to middle of the season, where Thielen was all of a sudden like a PPR monster and like a guillotine like savior and stuff. I'm like, that was just because there's no one else there. I think Deontay could actually do that and be believable when he does it. So not going to return to like what we hoped he was going to be after that like one season, but I think he could be a volume driven low to high 3 kind of thing. And you're making me feel really good as a Bryce Young owner that there's still hope. So that's nice to hear.
What's that?
All right, last one quick, and then we'll finally get out of these. But Jerry Jeudy to the Browns.
Is he going to be effective? But Amari Cooper is just going to dominate.
Make me feel good again. Keep talking about stuff.
I don't know that, and Njoku is going to do the same thing. Like those connections are still there. I love Jerry Judy. Don't get me wrong. The dude is a
Oh,
route absolute technician and knows how to get open. So I hope I'm wrong on this one, but I think if nothing else, it's going to likely stay the same. But I don't see him just being like, oh hey, here's first round Jerry Judy now that he's in Cleveland.
yeah.
Yeah, 50 is low.
Oh, yeah, no. I will do the same thing that I did to you for Ridley and let you know that Jerry Judy finished as wide receiver 50 last year. So I think there's obviously room for improvement. But yeah, no, I don't think he's going to all of a sudden have a resurgence career to being a starter. But I think he
Mm-hmm.
can at least, I'll say same, but I guess I think he can increase in because 50 is a low bar. I just think that he can become like a plug and play
Yeah.
waiver guy as an option versus right now it's like he's just on the end of your bench or not even startable. I think he can be a matchup play here just as a new. I just was happy he got out because clearly it wasn't working in Denver and they were only going to get worse at quarterback. So I'm like, just go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to see him end up somewhere
Yep.
better where there was a path to like splitting the one targets. But yeah, I mean,
I
with
feel it.
Amari, that's tough. I like the change of scenery and I hope maybe in like a year or two if they finally move on from the Deshaun Watson disaster or Amari kind of starts to age out, maybe they ride with Judy long enough for him to finally do what he was supposed to do like 8 seasons into the league. So and then tight ends, there was nothing relevant for moves, so I didn't even bother putting anything. So, all right, we finally made it through it. That's all the key changes there. So,
Yeah.
going into the ship it or skip it, I guess we're kind of going more of a draft focus thing. So, really quick, kind of first question before we get into like the main segment of our show today.
Yeah,
But
I think from
we haven't really
what
talked a
I've
ton of
just
like preferences. So, like
very
first off,
briefly
what
read
do
and
you want
heard,
the
it sounds
Vikings
like
to
this
do on
is the
Thursday night?
quarterback,
We got
or this is
the
the class
11
to go after a
overall, and then
quarterback,
obviously we
and there
traded up
really
to get
isn't
the
subsequent drafts that
23 as
are
well
super
about a
strong.
month ago.
I know they
So
kind of say that every
do
year,
you
but this
believe we should package
class has
those to
been hyped
trade up?
for a while, in my
Are you
opinion, at
all
least
in
a
on a
couple years.
quarterback whether we trade
Um,
up or stay at
with
11?
Caleb
What are you
obviously being that
thinking?
generational talent, we'll see what comes of it. Uh, but so I think I will have no issue if we package whatever we're looking for to come up here. I would like to somehow package it to come up and get three and target like a Drake May if he's there. But if we trade up into a more likely 4 or 5 and get McCarthy, if if they're really sold on him, I mean, who am I to judge? I think that will make JJ happy, which will certainly be happy, which will certainly make everybody else happy. The JJ to JJ connection sounds like fun.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the thing for me is it depends on if we get some kind of a if we can pay slightly less to go to 5 because 3 won't work, that's fine. If like they're talking the package to get up to 3 right now is like the 11, the 23, and next year's first, which already is scary. It
Yeah,
seems like a lot. If we do all that to just go up to 5 and get the fourth option of the 4, that hurts a little more to me. I would be
yeah,
nice to like package both firsts and then something like a day 2 pick or one of our first next year's first and then something else on top of that. Like
no,
I would like to not have to pay the same for the QB3 as the QB4 is what I'm trying to say. But um
yeah,
I'm all in for it. I think it's just obviously time, like we talked about before. Darnold's not the answer long term. And all I've heard, not even about how good this class is, but when you were talking about that, a lot of sources early on have been saying that the 2025 class is not a QB class whatsoever. So it's not even just
no.
like, oh, this class is really good, or like we don't know what next year's is. They're specifically saying 25 is bad for quarterbacks. So I'm like, please don't kick the can down the road. It's a bad time for us to be where we are needing a quarterback when like the top teams all also need quarterbacks. But like I think our
Um,
hand is kind of forced where we have
Not,
to
I
do
mean,
something
not
here.
a
So
strong preference. I think my
we'll get into who
ultimate
we think
preference
is
is
going
Drake
at like
May,
2 and
in
3
my
and everything
opinion.
like that, and who
So
our
I think
preferences are, I guess. But
that's certainly what I want. I
sounds
don't
like
know
you're
that
kind
he's
of in the boat
going to
of
be
assuming it's going
available.
to be
I
between May
will
and
I will not be
JJ, and it's
surprised
just
if
kind of
Washington
whatever
goes Drake May
works out
versus Jaden
value
Daniels.
wise for who we can
From
get. You
what
don't
I've
have a
seen, from what
strong
I've heard, from what I've
preference on
read, there's a
them or
lot of
Jaden
connection
or
there. Yeah,
what you've
it's
read.
dropped precipitously over the last handful of days. Um, so I'm not saying
Okay.
Jaden is not going
Me
to
too.
potentially be great, but from all the, if you look at a bunch of the college stats, like he instantly scrambles is what it looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and from the stats as soon as
It's
he's
even
pressured,
money
like it was crazy to
between
see some
them.
of the stats. It was like 40% of dropbacks that he was pressured, he scrambled on, compared to some of the other top ones. Caleb Williams was like 3.8%. Drake May was like 4.6%. And so like it was Jaden, if he felt any pressure, he was running. So it's like I don't know that that's exactly what we need. It would obviously make Jefferson very happy to get Jaden Daniels. So I think if we got either of those two, we'd then keep our star receiver, and that's my end goal at the end of this is whoever JJ wants, just give it to him so he can stay here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Agreed.
Either.
I am also Team May. I've been that since kind of like the start. So, it just seems like the age old debate of the natural athlete versus the prototypical quarterback. And granted, there's plenty of both of them that don't work out whatsoever. I just think for our system and our fit currently, May seems better. I'm not sold on McCarthy like a lot of people seem to be. I think he seems like very much like I will feel very much like a consolation prize if we trade up to 5 and get him. If we happen to stay at 11 or something and still landed him, I'd be ecstatic because then it's like we for me, it's do you want May or do you want McCarthy plus this other key piece that you get at 23? Then it evens out a little bit more. But I think we're not going to have the choice to gamble because if we don't get
I think
at
definitely
least McCarthy, then
in
it's
my opinion. So
kicking the can much farther down,
get another
late
corner,
first, early
no
second,
question.
and the other
Get
guys
some
scare
type
me
of
more. So,
get some type of liner, get
really
some type of
quick,
edge,
say we just
something
absolutely
of
say
that nature. But
fuck it and don't
corner
go quarterback whatsoever.
is always my first
Non-quarterback,
one
what would you want to
when I
see us
watch our
do at
defense.
11 and
Sometimes
23? Doesn't
it's
have to be
hard to watch
specific
us
players, but like
constantly get burned over the top.
offense, defense, specific
So
positions, whatever.
it's tough. So that's where I lean is somewhere on the defense and specifically corner if I had my pick. That.
Yeah, I would love corner at like 23. I think there's a few options at corner slightly later, whereas there's like two-ish more blue chip prospects on the interior defensive line. I want like one of the top defensive tackles from the SEC. That's some guys that are on the board. So that would be my dream. If we don't go quarterback, we load up on a D tackle at 11 and we get a corner, one of the top available left at 23. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but at least there's backup plans for being let down as Vikings fans. So, all right, we've spent plenty of time on everything else, but we are getting to now the spot I wanted to get to where we did this last year, just trying to toss out random predictions. I think we got like the first couple ones right that everybody gets right, but trying to pick the top few rookie fantasy relevant guys and what teams they end up on. So, other than obviously the locks with like the quarterback early on, I think everything else is pretty much up in the air. There's a few chalk picks, but I just wanted to see if either of us had some different thoughts. So we'll start with quarterback.
Probably 2 or 3. So,
Caleb, do you think he's going anywhere but Chicago? Okay, perfect. That's easy.
I'll stick with 3. I'll say he goes.
I'm just doing these in order of current ADP, so I'm not necessarily saying these guys go early. But where, if you had to pick your gut now, where do you think Jaden Daniels goes? Between probably 2, 3.
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely see that.
I'm basically flip flopped with those. So. Commanders just seem like the team that will like screw up the pick more, or like will go for the flashy pick more. Whereas
put the pieces in motion
both of them, I think, would be able to use May more potentially.
So how great I feel about it, but
and also it keeps my dream alive that May is a possibility. I don't think there's any way in hell the Commanders trade out of 2, whereas the Patriots might have a chance because they just need more things. So
jump up and outbid.
And then JJ, does he go to the Vikings or elsewhere?
They're the only one.
Yeah,
I think they're going too crazy.
Yeah, they're the only. See, that's the thing is them, and then I was going to say the Broncos, but obviously they just did the surprise trade for Zach Wilson today too. Which that's the answer, but I think that's enough to make them not be a threat to trade up. And then the Raiders, who gave Minshew money, so the Giants seem like the other threat that we have to worry about. But like you said, I can't imagine a team being like, "Let's just take the Giants." Like if you get an offer from the Giants, you just go to the Vikings and say, "Can you beat that? Because you'll give us more." So,
just because,
I don't think there's a whole lot of other options.
Yeah,
so
well,
I don't love it, but I think that's kind of going to become what happens. And if anything different happens of landing May or Daniels,
I think
I'll
it'd be fun,
ecstatic.
and it's
now the much less likely ones because we know nothing about running backs and none of them are going to get taken in the first round anyways. But Brooks is the first listed running back. So do you have a shot that you want to call for where he ends up? Jonathan Brooks coming off of injury.
Really?
That's fair. Yeah. This blows my mind because I just looked at the draft notes as you're filling them in, and I just double taked my own list because it's the exact same. So not to jump ahead, but I thought I entered in mine on my own and was like, wait a minute. So yeah, I have Brooks going to the Cowboys too. At what are they picking, 59 or 60? So like mid second round. I
Yeah,
think that'll be
I put Trey
the
Benson to
chalk
the
pick that
Giants.
this team
Another
is
just one of those
100%
open
going running back
backfields
because they're
that
not running into
could go
the
anyway, and so
season
I
with
would not be
Rico
surprised
Dowdle
if those
and
are the first two
Deuce
teams
Vaughn or
to
whatever. So
draft a running back,
whether it ends up being Brooks
and
or this
those
next
are the
guy
top two
Benson,
people in
likely
my
is the 1
opinion.
and
So
2. They could kind of
Jonathan
flip
Brooks
flop,
is incredible.
just
He even
like
play
Daniels and
behind
May could go
Bijan
either or
for the
here.
last
But
year and
I'm going
change,
Brooks to the
and
Cowboys
he's
also. So
looked
Trey Benson,
incredible.
what are you
So
thinking?
without that, if we're not talking about the injury that he has succumbed to, we'd likely be talking about an early second round pick versus potentially a first round pick, but
Yeah.
maybe even then. But in my opinion, he's the number one running back off the board. Trey Benson's very good, very shifty, but Jonathan Brooks is a different dude, and he'll be an effective NFL running back, no question. Yeah, not total guess, honestly. Not a whole lot there.
All right, I like it. And then Benson just seems like the fit for the Giants because they're wide open. Essentially, that was mine too. I was just looking at teams that had no options, and the Cowboys and Giants felt like locks to take them. This third one, I thought I was getting spicy, so we were going Blake Corum, and I was like, let me just pick a team that doesn't necessarily need one as badly. Obviously, we have the connection with Michigan as the main reason, but I went the Chargers for that reason. I thought I was being a little bit more creative with like who's the third team that's going to take a running back up until I connected Harbaugh as the coach and was like, oh yeah, that just seems like the thing that won't happen because it's just too obvious and it'll end up being some other team that like jumps up in surprise, takes him over Benson or something silly because that always flip flops in the draft. But a couple of other quick teams I felt like would end up being kind of mini dark horses to take ones. I feel like I could see the Bengals doing it. I could see the Bengals going for like a day two, maybe like a third round running back. The Bills have been talked about as taking one, which blows my mind because obviously James Cook keeps being the guy that you're
No, I'm
waiting to
assuming
get the
that just
full
because
opportunity. But they've been talked about as
the
well,
Cardinals
so
are
that
locked
could be a
in
couple of other
to
surprise
their
teams later
quarterback
on.
with
So
Kyler. They just lost
running backs, we
Hollywood
are
in free
chalk across the
agency,
board.
so
Quarterbacks, we only have
they
two
need
differences,
another
and they're basically
receiver, and it's
mirrored
hard
each
to pass
other.
up
So
on
not a lot of
essentially whoever we think
variety. We'll
is
see about
the
receiver here, but
legit number one
Marvin
non
Harrison
QB
Jr.
in
There
the
has been
entire draft, and he's
a
just an
chalk
absolute
pick all
freak.
off season. Are you
6'4",
assuming that, or
another
are
one of
you
those
going
big
anywhere different?
generational. If we weren't drafting QBs, this guy would go number one overall. So I think the Cardinals are pretty locked in on him. I think it would take a pretty decent haul for them to trade out of 4 and trade back just so somebody could come up and get a QB. Maybe they like somebody like Harrison and Neighbors and Rome all the same, and so they're willing to trade back a little bit. But if you have a chance to take Marvin Harrison, I think you just take him.
Right.
Mm-hmm. My gut
I
really
think that
wants me
just
to
makes the
send him
most
to the
sense, and
Chargers. That would be
they don't really have
awesome.
any
I would,
incentive to trade
for
back
my
at
fantasy
that point
team,
because
that
I
would
think
be
a lot of
amazing
other
because
teams in
I
the
would
top 10 need
draft him
receiver
with
too. So
my
then you're like
1.2, and
falling
I'd
into the
trade for
Viking
Herbert in
situation
the
of like, oh,
offseason,
if we
and I'd
trade
just
back, we
ride
might
off
all of a
into the
sudden
sunset
get
as
our
a
like
happy human.
third or fourth pick, and we
But
don't want that.
I
So
think he,
that seems pretty
I think he
safe.
goes.
Now, hopefully, it
I
gets a
think he
little
goes
bit
to
more
the Giants
spicy.
at
But
6 and
where
crushes
do you
my hopes and
have
dreams.
Neighbors ending up?
That, yeah,
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Okay, well,
yeah,
cool. That was mine. Also, I literally switched from Chargers originally because I was like, there's also the chance
yeah,
for me that Bowers ends up there, and I don't like the option of like I don't know who they're going to go with. I think the most likely is that the Chargers end up trading back. Personally, like I think they trade out of 5, and because of that, I think that that'll just
okay,
throw a
sure,
wrench into everything else where I didn't want to go with them. So I said Giants just because they need so many different things, but they're going to end up taking receiver, which like won't fit. It'll be a band-aid on their leak in the dam kind of thing, but just seems very Giants-ish to do. So I have them written down.
yeah.
Out of avoiding the 7th pick in a row of being the same that you said, I'm going to say first, just so you know I truly do have these written down. But I have Adunze
Yeah, that was that. I
in
mean,
very
that
typical of
makes the
this
most
team's
sense to
fashion
me as
too. I think they're
well.
going
But
to just
again,
try
I
to go
think
for
I can
splash
see,
versus like
um,
foundational pieces.
I can see
But I
Chicago
think I have
trading
them.
out, and
I have
so
Odunze
if somebody
ending up as
trades up
Caleb's
and does
new
something like
teammate, kind of
that,
like what we were talking about
I
before,
think it'd be
with the Bears
really
doing
cool
a
if
surprise
the Jets
receiver,
somehow got
even
it
though they
and
just got
he got
Keenan
to
out
pair
there. So
with Aaron Rodgers because
1 and
that would
9, I
be
have them going
some crazy
quarterback, wide
stat, and
receiver, and
I
just
think most I'm sure
shaping that
everybody's
offense
seen
for
it.
the
But
future.
Aaron Rodgers has never had a first round wide receiver or tight end. And so I say, hey, we'll give it a shot. I do think he ends up with the Bears just
Mhm.
because you don't pass up on generational talent like that. But I think it'd be more fun to see him with the Jets and pair with Garrett Wilson. That sounds like that sounds awesome. That sounds like a Jets team I want to watch. And I couldn't hate Aaron Rodgers anymore, but I would watch that team.
Yeah. Yeah. Ironically,
Yeah.
building off of that, that is the exact same reason I have Bowers mocked to the Jets. So at 10, I was
Mm.
like my dream had always been the Chargers, but I think the Jets are a team that badly needs tight end also and wants to give Rodgers a second receiving option. And this is based on me thinking all three of the top
Yeah.
consensus wide
Yeah, no
receivers are
question.
gone by
Because
10, and they're
that's who
not
I
going to go
originally thought
all of a
for.
sudden go and reach for like the
Because really,
next
my picks
teardrop
were
of a wide
honestly the
receiver.
Bears
So
for the
I think
for
Bowers is
Adunze and the
probably
Jets for
going to
Bowers. But
be a
I was
lock
like,
for
I'm
top
not doing that.
10 to 12,
But
and that just makes the
so
most
for
sense
tight
out
end
of
for
the guys that
Bowers,
are
I'll say he slides
every other team
just
above
slightly,
them needs
and
something
let's
else
send him
more
out
than
to
they need tight
Denver.
end. It's more of like a we'd
Let's get
love
him
to
in
have
Denver at
Bowers, but
12. I
we're
don't think he gets
going to go
past
this way.
12.
So
So I can see somebody else coming up to potentially get him as well. So everything I've heard is like people are saying, oh, hey, he's like 12 and a half is his over under. I would definitely look at the under for that one. And everybody's like,
no,
you're too low on him at 12. I'm like, that's crazy. The dude is an absolute freakazoid. Uh, it sounds crazy to think because of what it does in
yeah,
out,
that's
and
another
it's
one.
going to be tougher because his
No,
draft capital will technically be worse than Kyle Pitts. But everyone's like, this guy is Kyle Pitts on steroids. That's crazy. That's crazy to say. And he's going to have worse draft capital, so people aren't going to understand it. But he's a freak. So,
yeah,
yeah, I was like, I'm a Georgia guy, so I was like, I enjoy that I'm out here on the East Coast. So
yep,
hearing a
agreed.
lot of these, I'm like
Could be a crazy situation if we do
Carolina,
pull off the
and
trade with the
I was like,
Patriots. I
and
just thought that
you get
now, but
you get
them
something
dropping
like
back to
that.
11
Katie's
and
with
being
Denver
right in that
fans,
same
like he goes
like
to the Broncos.
9,
That'd
10,
be
11,
awesome.
12 that could
Like I don't
all
want
go
him to
for
go to
the
the
tight
Jets
end.
because I
So
will not own a Jets jersey.
I
But
just hope he
I
goes
mean,
somewhere cool because
when did
I want
when did I
him
first
to
tell
do
you about
well, even though
Bowers?
I'm
I
not
think
going
when
to
he was a
draft him
freshman, I'm
anywhere.
like, hey,
I
just
just
watch in
want
4
that
years,
to
this guy's
continue.
going to
So
be a psychopath because he's crazy. I'm like, that was four years ago. I bet you could go back and find the text that was like, "Hey,
yeah, that'd be cool for
when
her.
when Bowers gets drafted in 2024,
Yeah.
he will be on my fantasy team." So it's crazy. I've been watching enough Georgia football that I'm like, this guy's
Hmm.
ridiculous.
It was when we were talking about Pitts too. Like, oh, there's this other guy coming out and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't watch college enough to know these Devy rookie picks.
It's gonna
Probably.
absolutely pain me when Neighbors goes to the Giants, and then I just have to. I,
Yeah.
that is going to absolutely kill me because that sounds horrible.
I can't wait for one of the receivers, Neighbors or Odunze,
Yeah,
to go to the
it's gonna be
Chargers, and then
horrible.
Bowers also land in a
Exactly, it's
great
exactly what's
situation
gonna
and
happen.
have you have to decide at 102 what you want to do. I was just gonna say, when it goes Giants, Bears for Odunze, and Jets for Bowers, and you just have to go, ugh. I hate everybody. All right. We'll get through the quick dynasty download segment, mainly just because I've got some jack of all trades one. Um, 4 trades to discuss in our dynasty in just the last like 2 months. So finally, things are happening. Tyler and I are each part of one of them. So what I'm going to do is, if we're discussing the trade that you're in, you just abstain, and the other person gives their 2 cents because obviously we both like ourselves for our trades. But really quickly, just for the rest of them, that
Yeah, I mean,
most of them I
I'm
think
still
listen
gonna
to the
be
show.
on
I
the
just wanted
McLaurin
to
side for
give their
this
two
one too,
cents. Jordan always
especially
yells at me when I don't
getting
talk about his
getting a new
trades. So if you're
quarterback.
listening,
And
Jordan,
Sam
we're
Howell
skipping
was
your trade.
was fine. He was
No.
serviceable,
So
but I think whoever
Jordan
McLaurin is
traded
getting the ball
for
thrown
Terry
to
McLaurin,
from
and
now
in
is
exchange,
is going to
Nate
be an
got a
upgrade.
Raheem
And
Mostert
Mostert's
and
at
the
the tail end of his
310. So
career,
we don't
so
have to go
I
super
mean he's
deep
going to be
dive
in the
because this
league
was like
what,
2 months
maybe
ago.
one,
But
2 more
any
years,
any like
and
one
then a
two
third
thoughts
round
there?
pick. So I got to lean the receiver with a little more staying power. Year.
That being said, there was another time that McLaurin was traded for a presumably aging running back, and we were all
That can
dogging on
happen.
the person who traded away McLaurin, and they arguably got the better end of the deal, getting Jamal Williams instead. So this could be another situation. Yeah, I know.
He's
Well,
not scoring
Mostert's going to
19
basically be
touchdowns
1 year
again.
too.
It's
So
not
that's
happening.
yeah.
He's
Um,
Jamal Williams.
I don't know that I'm in love with
The
McLaurin
exact. It's the
remotely
exact
value
trade.
wise for
It's the
Dynasty,
exact
but I
trade
think
again.
I like that better. Mostert had one good year and finally stayed healthy, and it's great if he can do that again in that offense. But like, you're betting on 6+
Right.
years of proven injury proneness. So I would just take the receiver that you can at least conceivably start. So, um, yeah, he had I that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere else that like coming into this last year, he had like 17 or 18 touchdowns on his career, and he over doubled that just last year. Like that's just bananas. All right, so yeah, I give the edge to Jordan. I don't hate it for either side. I think if Nate was like a running back away, this makes more sense to
Yay.
do in season. I don't think McLaurin's the guy you want to like trade for in the offseason and build around, but I get it because it just has the chance. So he was a really gross pairing with another old running back, Eckler, for a while there before he got rid of him. But we'll get into that in a second.
Trying.
Number two, Tyler doesn't get to speak because it's about him, and I'm upset about it. But Tyler traded for Cooper Kupp, Justin Herbert. I wore the jersey just for you, and the 210 in exchange for Glick getting AJ Brown in the 202. He broke the unspoken rule of Dynasty where you don't make deals with the champion, but he did it anyway. And he traded a guy that he kept exploding off or tempting me for all off season, and now Glick has him. So not enough. I will say to color in context, this was because Tyler was in a very QB needy situation. So I think this is the unique situation where I think this helps Tyler's team more. But I think Glick wins the trade if you're looking at it in a vacuum value wise. I think it was just a situation of, oh my God, I'm sick of starting quarterbacks. I need to like move a piece to get something solid. And then Kupp obviously is great when he's healthy too. He's another kind of like a Mostert version to me though, where it's like, I don't know
I
what's
fucking
going to
hate the
happen
trade.
in a year or two. So you're basically
I have
trading
instant buyer's remorse.
a
I
late
did all of
20s
this
receiver
before
for like a
everything
30
happened. I did this
receiver.
before
And it's,
Keenan
I
was
don't know
gone.
that
I did
that
this
helps you
before they
long term,
changed
but hopefully
coaches.
for like a year or two, it's good if
I
you're
did
able
all
to
of this, and now seeing
turn
exactly where
around
it's
and then
at now, I'm
compete.
like,
It makes sense. If you're all of a
that was
sudden like
horrible. That couldn't
just
have
missing the
worked out
playoffs
any
again,
worse
it
for
probably
me.
is
And
like a
I
bigger
haven't
loss
played a
for you.
snap yet.
But if you're
I've
in the
I've
playoff
always
hunt, Cup's a
I've
difference
always been a
maker.
Justin
So that
Herbert
part I
truther.
like.
I absolutely love him. So exactly like you
What'd
said,
you do it for
I
then?
needed it because my team was going nowhere fast. I now at least
Uh,
have building blocks at all of my different positions.
that's
I
fair.
was
Yeah.
pretty good on my receiver depth. I mean, I've got like Brandon Ayuk as well, who has really stepped up. And then having somebody like Cup, and now I've got
That's
the 1.2,
that
so I
is
can kind
true.
of round out that. And then I got Bijan and Jonathan Taylor. So I'm like, if I
Yeah.
didn't
I
have
am
a
too.
QB, I couldn't
Hence,
do
yeah.
it. I really couldn't do anything. So I had to give up a top tier individual to get somebody who could be incredible for the next 8 years continuously. So I'm hoping that they somehow draft a weapon for him after losing Keenan and losing Eckler. So that offense is just so different. And I had already made the trade, so I'm certainly having some buyer's remorse, but we'll see.
Yeah. That's true. I was thinking of it just in context of when you made it. So yeah, this is worse now. But I think it makes sense where it's like if you can get a quarterback that you know is going to be good for that long. Like I did the same thing the
I hope
previous
so.
offseason where I was like, I'm just sending away my later first to get Lamar and be done with the quarterback roulette forever. Like I'll just have him and that's it, and it's good. It might suck for now
Yeah,
until
he's
they
a
get more
diva. I
weapons, but
love
like
AJ Brown. He's my
he's the
boo,
guy
but
that still can
man,
probably
he's
put up
pissing me off.
4,000 yards with nobody
He's
at
such a
quarterback
fucking
receiver.
diva.
Like he'll probably do the same Mahomes thing where it's like he has no one to throw to. How does he still have 35 touchdowns? So it
Yeah,
just,
that'd be
I
crazy.
think he'll be fine. It's just, it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough for me seeing the downgrade from AJ Brown to Cooper Cup. That's the only sad part, and I don't like Glick having Cooper Cup or AJ Brown. So
Yes, you do.
he, yeah,
Yeah,
I just need him to keep
the
throwing a tantrum and pull a
it's
Diggs
an
and get out
interesting
of
one. I think it
Philadelphia
sort of
because
makes sense
now
for both
Devontae
sides
Smith has a
because I
4-year
mean,
contract and I'll
for
be so
context, this
happy.
wasn't even Jack's
All
first.
right, I'll hang up and
He
listen
got
on
it
this
in a
one, but
different
then I made
trade,
a
so he
trade with
really wasn't
Foster.
giving up
I traded
anything,
for
in my
Devon
opinion,
Achan. I have to
to
pronounce
get
his name
Achan.
right now that I
The
have
tough
him on
part
my
is
team,
we
and I
really
gave up the
don't know
105 to
much
do it. So
about
the
Achan.
only
So
trade
Foster's
in this
willing to take the
offseason
risk
that was
to
just a
say,
one
hey,
for one.
this
Everything else
guy
was
looks
pieces.
explosive, but is this
Makes it more
repeatable? Can
clean.
he actually be a bell cow? And Foster doesn't think so. I'm 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 very in the middle. I think it's the perfect context for both sides. Jack can take on the risk with the team context that he had, and if Achan completely flops, he's honestly okay. And Foster needs something completely different. He needs a wide receiver, or he needs a longer term tight end, or whomever, somebody who has more staying power than somebody potentially like Achan. So contextually, honestly, I thought it was an exactly even trade for both team contexts, which I know is not helpful. No, but I don't think anybody won.
Yeah, it's probably one of them. No, I was just going to say it's one of the more fair trades I would argue that our entire league has had, which is rare because I feel like I'm known for or get yelled at all the time for people being like, "How did you get this dumbass to make this trade?" Blah blah. This was the first time where I was like, Foster and I had talked about it a month ago, and he was like, "I want to wait until NFL draft happens because I'm targeting like this tier of people and I want to know I can at least get them. So like if I had the 104, he would have done it that day. But because of that, he was waiting. And then randomly he texts me and is like, I'm ready to do the trade. And I was like, nothing has changed. Everybody is still undrafted. And he's like, I just feel good with who I can get and who I can't. And for me, you're talking about the risk. I think there's so much risk in rookie picks anyway. So I'm like, if I'm risking a guy who at least lit it up last year and is still young and has Mostert, who he's going to like get out of the way very, very soon, versus rolling the dice on a rookie
Mm-hmm.
where I don't even know where the rookies are going to land yet. Like they might all go in great spots, and all of a sudden, like the 107 is the teardrop, but they might all go to shitty spots like the Giants and the Bears, and all of a sudden it's like if you don't have the 102 or better, it sucks. So like I wanted to get out of that very, very quickly. And for me, it feels at least currently like there's a very clear like top four where you're going like the first three receivers and then Bowers if you need tight end. And after that, it's like nobody really knows who the number 4 wide receiver is. No one's talking about running back in
Mm-hmm.
the top 5, 6, even 7-ish unless they go to a perfect spot. So I'm like, I'm going to end up picking 105 felt the exact same to like down to 108 or 109 to me. And I was like, I don't need any of that. I don't like any receiver I draft there, barring them lighting it up and being a Puka Nakua all of a sudden, isn't going to start for my team. I don't mean that as like a brag thing, but it's just like they're not going to right off the bat be the answer as a starter, and nobody else I could plug in and
Mm-hmm.
play can do that. Whereas Achan all of a sudden allows me to bench like
Yep.
Diggs if I have that up and down problem, or he allows me to bench some other guy that's like more of a question mark. Where like Achan's kind of the running back version of Tyreek Hill as his teammate, where you're like, he might not do something some weeks, but he's always like the home run threat that can just win you the week. So I liked that versus what I could have made with my team at the 105. I just
Yeah,
didn't like where I was sitting.
I'm at this point in the
So
career, I'm taking Nate.
all right,
I'm
and then last
taking
one.
the 2.5.
Nate got the
So
today actually
I
the
get it.
205
I
and the
just don't know that
411
Eckler is going to
in
provide
exchange for Mac
enough
getting Austin
value
Eckler,
and
the
be in
310
the
and the
league long enough
408. So the
where
4 is
you
basically
at least got a
wash. The
shot with the rookie. And
310
Eckler's,
trades. He
I don't
basically
think
like
he's going to
moved
come
up a
in and
round and a
all of a
half
sudden
in
be like
exchange
an
for giving away
RB2
Eckler. Is
even
how I look at it.
for this upcoming season.
So
I think Brian Robinson is going to handle
what?
honestly a majority of that work. And again, you're going to be working with
Oh,
a rookie quarterback on top of it, so you're going to potentially waste a year there as they develop. So give me Nate's side, honestly. That's fair.
yeah, I didn't expect that, but you're swaying me to that side a little bit more. I think for me, it's enough to like roll the dice on Eckler if you're a competitor, where like Mac had the ability to be like, fuck those picks. Like, I'll
Yeah.
just get rid of everything and just ride him for 1 year and see what happens. But you're probably right. Like, this is probably the last year you can get something for Eckler, because if it happens again next year, he's going to
Me
be
too. I don't
useless.
have
So,
one.
like, that's you're trying to sell him at the highest value. I think you probably could have gotten more than basically like a late third upgrade to a mid second. You probably could have just gotten like a second round pick straight up, or keeping your third, for example. Not that that's a big deal, but like somebody probably would have given you an early second for Eckler. So I wonder if he really shopped it around very much. I know you talked about having offers out there. If I had a second, I would have offered that too. But like somebody probably somebody probably would have done that. So like I wonder how much he was, because I didn't even know he was really shopping Eckler. Maybe he just knew I wouldn't pay that much for him. But uh I just don't think that does a whole lot. And I will say, like, team context wise, Nate has been talked about as being he's talked about wanting to continue to stay contending and like thinks he's like a playoff threat and everything. So whether he is or isn't, like, I was wrong last year that I thought he wouldn't make the playoffs, and he did. So I was proven incorrect.
Yeah.
But if
Agreed.
you are still saying you're a contender and you're trying to keep the couple pieces you do have, it surprises me to move away Eckler when he really already is pretty rough at running back as it is. So it makes me wonder if maybe like if he's going to agree to start going the rebuild route and like trading pieces to like load up on picks and turn around. Great move. But if you're just going to ride back with what you have now
Yeah.
and like be one less piece
Yeah. Honestly,
shy,
that's
I
the
don't
one
know
for
that it
me
makes
because the
sense.
rest of my
So
guys are
I'm
pretty
curious what
set
he
in
will
their
do. Long
scenarios. And
story
I guess
short.
if I want to throw a 1A,
All right,
1B
very
in
last
there,
quick
1A is
little
for
question on the dynasty
certainly the
side.
Chargers.
What's
They
one
rebuild
realistic draft
somewhere and
scenario
get
that can
some
make
type
or
of
break your
weapon, whether
team?
they
I know you've
get a
already kind
wide
of talked
receiver or
about
get
like
a tight
what
end,
the
something
Chargers
full
do as
Herbert.
far as a weapon, but we're saying like this
Yeah,
team either
exactly. I
does or
mean, hey,
doesn't draft this
watch
thing,
him
and
stay
this
at 5 and take Joe
affects me
Alt and
either
be like,
way.
"Hey, Herbert,
So
you run the football."
is that the one?
Whatever. So I think that's going to be a big one. Or it could be, for me, simply just if Brandon Ayuk stays in San Fran or goes somewhere else. those would probably be my two biggest ones. So nothing even potentially draft related. But remember, obviously, a couple of years ago, we saw
Offensive
AJ Brown
line.
get traded on draft day, so you never really know. But those would be my two for sure, because the rest of my individuals are locked into their spots, in my opinion. I got Bijan, I got Jonathan Taylor, like they're in their spots. Brandon Ayuk is kind of the one up in the air. Cooper Kupp is in his spot. Kyle Pitts is in his spot. Herbert is in their spot. So a lot of my people are their very top, and there's not a whole lot, in my opinion, that can change my team. So mine's really just going to come down to drafting. So I don't think there's any of my people that can have somebody get drafted and totally ruin their value, because I don't have much depth.
That's fair. Yeah. I think most of my key guys are pretty, like, the teams are not likely to take the position they have. Between having like Gibbs, ETN, now Achan, I don't see any of them really going for running back. So I looked more at like my depth piece and stuff because I feel like I have a really strong running back room currently, but I also feel like both the Broncos with Javonte on my team and the Bengals with Zach Moss surprisingly having some value now as the only guy in Cincinnati really being discussed. I feel like either of them could pretty easily take a running back, and that would really, really
Yep.
suck. So I'm going more that route. I think my tight end, my receivers feel pretty secure, and receivers a spot where, like, even if someone gets drafted
I
to
was
your
gonna say I
team, you
might
can
skip it
still
on like
keep
it's
value.
midnight.
So running back is one that can pretty
I'm
quickly
good with
lose
that.
it, and those scare me. If there's like a day 2 pick used by either of them, I'm going to be cursing everything. But if they make it to day 3, I feel like, holy crap, I actually surprisingly have value at these spots. So, all right, we did it. I know we've run a little long. Do we even want to do a draft segment? I know it's later for you even, so
Yeah,
works for me. We've done a lot more analysis than I thought, so I'm cool with not. Cool. Biggest things. We'll figure it out at some point, but we'll do probably like a late May thing where we have a very busy middle of the May. So it'll probably be a late May episode, and we'll just talk what we got right and wrong with the draft. There won't be any real new content, so it'll just be kind of quick rookie draft stuff and maybe some of our own dynasty rookie draft, which will be either done or decently far in at that point, and then some offseason tips for you guys that are new dynasty people. So that's what to look forward to. Friends of the show, quick, Minnesota Sports. As always, go check them out. They're still recording every week because they don't have an off season. They do every Minnesota sport year round. Wednesdays on Facebook Live. ADH Dads, they have actually gotten into season 2. I think now they're up to like
NFL feels like it's
7
starting to
or
come
8
back,
episodes
so
in. So
appreciate the support.
I don't know what
as,
season 1
as
versus season 2
always.
was, but they started
As
up
we get
again. So
into
go
the
check them
draft
out.
here, we'll
They've
put
actually been
some
pretty fun, and it's
reactions
pretty
from the
casual
draft. We'll start looking
listening,
at what
and
the
half the time
dynasty rookie drafts are coming
the
up.
conversation gets
So that
better
should
as
be a
they get more
blast.
drunk
If
as the night
anybody
goes
ever
on. So
wants
it's
to
great.
hop on and
And
do
then the Game Boys,
mocks
if
with
you
us
want to
as
check out any
we
video
start
game
getting
review
into the
stuff,
season and after
that's all
summer,
I
by
got.
all
Tyler,
means, let us know.
take us
That's
away.
when we really enjoy it. I know we talked a lot about doing some giveaways and things like that. I've been stocking up on a few things to do some giveaways with. So I'm gonna try to do some fun stuff with that just to get a few more subscriber count. I'll start buying stuff. So yeah, I got a hand. I'm a mini helmet guy. So as Jack just showed, I got a bunch in my closet and I've been adding all summer. So Katie's like, do we have to have a talk? You got plenty. So we got some cool ones. I got to decide which one I want to give away. But should be fun. So I'll get some more details on that as we start having some fun with that. And we'll get some more subscribers. We'll give away some cool stuff. We got the idea from the Minnesota team, seeing some of the swag stuff they do and their giveaways. Maybe we'll do some with some of the DFS stuff that we did. See if we can't get some good interest. So should be a fun season. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Appreciate you guys hanging around or popping back in. Please comment something if you've made it this far. We would love some kind of interaction. So that's all. We'll keep you posted for a month from now, and see you then. Bye.